Welcome to the Open Air Podcast. My name is Devang and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Simon Bushell. Simon, tennis has returned. The Olympics have wrapped up, but we cannot let the Olympics go, can we?
We will never let the Olympics go. Our heart is still near the Seine. It's in all of those areas in Paris that we've become so accustomed to. Dev, it's been a charmed life we've been living over the last 16 days. We've had to not think about anything. We've just woken up and there's been nothing but a stream of content available to us. Glorious, steamy sports content. What do we do with our lives now?
Can I also say that the Premier League coming back this soon is sickening to me? Like, I hate that my beloved Prem and Arsenal are playing games so soon. Like, I needed a break, you know? Like, this feels ridiculous. I mean, imagine the players. Jeez.
I mean, speak for yourself. I witnessed a 3-3 nail-biter between Portsmouth and Leeds United this past weekend as well.
Oh my God.
Championship starts 2 weeks earlier.
Championship. That's right.
Oh, God.
It's a bit messed up, and we wonder why these athletes get injured all the time, and we wonder what's going on with the grind. But if we're going to have all these games in Dubai and Saudi Arabia at the end of the season, what can you do, right? You got to start early.
Yeah, it's true. Well, maybe they should take a page out of the Olympics books and only hold it every 4 years. That would make things easier. Can you imagine a Premier League season every 4 years?
It'd be nuts. It'd be mental, actually.
I'm so down.
Anyways, yeah, I think to properly put the Olympics to bed, and I know we said last episode we were doing that, this is going to be a countdown, Simon and I counting down our top Olympic moments, top 5. Simon wanted to do 10. I wanted to do 5, only because I do think it would be long and we would overlap. And I purposely didn't overlap because you put yours down first. So I share the sentiments for most of yours. So I think it was good this way.
I think so, yeah. I think we can perhaps put it to bed after this. I won't.
You sicko, man.
Let it go, man. It's gone.
Quickly, to start actually, did you like the closing ceremonies?
I did, and I suspect I will come on to the ceremonies in one of my moments as well in my top 5. But I really enjoyed it. I don't know, I mean, part of this, watching a solid gold alien descend from the roof of the Stade de France was a choice, certainly.
I mean, that was class. that was chef's kiss. I enjoyed the most. I mean, shouts to Phoenix, definitely a band of my youth and Listomania. It's a banger, but most of those Olympians are what? In like their mid-20s, early 20s, maybe even younger. How many of those people were like, who the F is that? What's going on here? And seeing their fellow old millennial Olympians lose their mind. I found the music acts interesting in like selection-wise, and like the LA portion was... I mean, Snoop is great. Dre is fine. They're good together. The Red Hot Chili Peppers must be stopped. Let's just put it there. Like this was sickening.
I mean, Wash doesn't even begin to describe what was going on in the LA section.
Billie Eilish couldn't prop up these goons, but that was bad. But overall, the Tom Cruise stuff, I'm a mark. Don't get me wrong, I'm a mark. Like I'm a TC head. When he dove from that stadium, I'm like, all right. We're going in now. Let the games begin, so to speak. But I understand. I'm fully Tom Cruise pilled and understand he's probably a dangerous man at this point, based on his actions.
It is interesting, though, isn't it? Out of what LA chose to show of itself, it chose Tom Cruise, Snoop Dogg, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Billie Eilish.
So, do you think if the cruise rappel went wrong down the Stade de France, do they run the rest of that pre-made ad? I really wonder if, like, what if something happened and they're like, you know what, we gotta run this ad anyways. Cut to the tape.
And this is how it would have gone had he not. Yes.
They're tending to Tom Cruise now, but based on...
We've already made this very expensive video. We kind of have to show it at this point. So let's talk about breaking. Let's go there, Dev, because I think it's an interesting discussion to lead us into this before we get into our top 5 moments. Ray gun has captured the world, for better or for worse. What did you make of this whole thing?
I feel very not angry. Angry's not the right word. I just feel like pissed off, I guess, at Raygun and what has seemed to be what happened here in the sense of like what went down. And this is through like Reddit sleuthers and Twitter people. So I mean, come at me if this is verified to be untrue. But it seems that when breaking was introduced to the games, some of these countries didn't have ways to like select breakers, or they went to their dance sport representatives who are typically ballroom dancing people or people who specialize in that. So those dance sport countries or the organizations within these countries reached out to people, and it seems they reached out to this Raygun person who has a PhD in breaking somehow. And she said, hey, like the Australian Breaking Society will help you select the contender from Australia. But she didn't tell them, I guess, that she created this Australian Breaking Society, and her husband is like the judge of the competition that selected the breakers. So she ended up being one of the women selected from Australia through this competition, through this foundation that she started, and that her husband was then a judge and then was a coach for the breaking team. So it seems like she inserted herself into this position solely to what? Make a mockery of this entire thing that she did a PhD on, which, my God, the amount of work involved in that. Like, what the fuck? She set breaking back decades. I feel really badly for the competitors who had to be like, yeah, that's Raygun. Like, what the hell?
Especially alongside, I think it's undeniable that for all of the good that we found in the Olympic Games, people's overriding memories might be of an Australian 36-year-old woman pretending to be a kangaroo in a competition that she shouldn't have been
Jesus
in,
Christ.
which is
the most Australian thing I've seen. And I'm not just saying because the kangaroo is referenced, but it takes a certain type of person to do this, you know? Like, I really... And then she went back home and was breaking or something I saw. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
God, I'm really glad Phil Wizard reminded everyone at, like, the day after, like, yo, this is actual breaking. And this is sick. And he put a country on his back, and people were genuinely enthused, and his family was in the crowd. Like, that was awesome. That was one of my top 5, which we can maybe start off with. But, like, yeah. Like, maybe I am mad based on the last 2 minutes. I think I am mad about this.
I love how I had this whole thing prepared and ready to go, and I've just teed you up, and you've done mostly what I was going to do anyway. So, respect for that. Such a bizarre story, it has to be said, just in terms of how this was covered, and also, I don't know. Does it feel like this is making a mockery of everything? Like at the back end of the Olympics, or is everyone just too pearl clutchy at this point?
Doug, I love the jokes, and like the memes are great, and I love the people like, hey, this is what my 5-year-old niece says when she says, "Come look here," and then it's just Raygun rolling on the ground. Like, I like that stuff. I thought it was funny. I didn't like it being used as like a, this is why breaking shouldn't be in the Olympics. You can debate that if you want. Like, I don't mind if you have that conversation, whether it should be in the Olympics or not. But like, I didn't like it being used as like, this is why, because this clown did this.
Yeah, and watch both finals, right? Or watch the medals and tell us that that's not, you know, an incredibly challenging artistic performance / sport, whatever you want to use the language for. Like, it's undeniable how incredible these athletes are. I think it's just this one inflection point, which is incredibly shady, which I think kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
It's so Olympics though, like the self-selection of, man, how many times have they pulled this off in the past, right? Like, there's gotta be skeletons in those closets, and I think across the
there is so many examples through history of dodgy shit for athletes who have either entered into competitions or have made their way to the Olympics that have either gamed the system or shouldn't, or have found ways to use loopholes to find the ways to go into these games. I was reading a story about, because cricket's coming back in 2028, right? It's going to be in Los Angeles as an Olympic sport.
What? Did I T20 or what? Or
I don't know what the discipline is. I can't remember. What? But the story was basically saying, okay, so I'll ask this question to you. Do you remember what the Or could you take a guess at who won the gold medal in 1900 when this last took place?
GB, whatever whatever.
Of
it was
course,
called.
right? Yeah, like because no one else in the world was playing it at that point in time. Could you take a guess at the silver?
Canada.
So
I'm gonna say
it was France, and the reason it was France is because it was a bunch of expats from the UK who had made their way to France and entered into the competition. So comedy gold. This is how we should go about doing these things in the future. Also, this is not entirely me fact checking. I heard it on another podcast. So if it's wrong, go and blame the original source on this one.
All right. Do we want to go into the good stuff now, or do we want to just lambast Reagan for a few?
Nah, it's fine. Believe me, if you want content out there that's going to lambast Reagan, we're going to get maybe we get like a serial style investigation into Reagan at some point down the line. Sarah Koenig going in and
it's a special type of person. All I'll say is it's a very special type of. I'm sure you've met people like this in your life who would do something like this. It's not just Reagan. Okay, that's what I'll leave you with there.
The tinfoil hat is out.
The audacity, the hubris to pull something like this off and be like, haha. It takes a certain type of person.
How do you think we would do at the podcast Olympics?
I mean,
there's no.
It depends who's judging. Right? How do we get in? It's undeniable. Oh, that's sickening. It's sickening to imagine how that would be judged, who would be judging it. Joe Rogan would probably be the IOC. He'd be the Thomas Bach of the
He might be in
thing.
it, though.
It'd be disturbing.
Yeah.
There'd be Bitcoin mining happening at the thing with like just thousands of BTUs being destroyed, devoted to this scam.
With that sobering and harrowing thought, let us transition nicely into the good stuff. Yeah. Let's do a coin flip here. Heads or tails, Devang?
Tails.
Okay, it is tails. Would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first. First.
After you.
We're not doing this or actually, should we do from 5 to 1, or what do you think?
No, because I haven't done that. So.
Exactly. So my first is the 4x100 men's relay. Canada winning, obviously, from the outside lane. I was on the air when this happened, so like our technical producer Stephen Coyle was like watching it to the side, and I had like my half head like watching the screen, and he stood up, and I'm like, oh my god! And I stood up myself and saw it happening. One of those moments where you will always remember where you were, and I say that for Donovan Bailey in the relay in '96 too. I was much younger then; I was 8, but. It is awesome how the Olympics serve as these signposts as well, or these like signal markers of your life in some ways. So I felt like it instantly hit that level for me, and the way they did it, the way the Americans crumbled, the way the Americans, I guess, don't practice the baton stuff, which is what's just great. It's awesome. We were the best baton passing team, and we won the damn relay, and that's how it should be.
Shocking, isn't it? The idea that you're running in a relay and you might want to actually practice the baton pass.
It seemed like Kenny Bednarik had never been around.
He's attempting to pass.
Presented with a baton in his life. Yeah, it was great.
It was my patented thick of it quote that I'll add in here, as always. Trying to get one an episode at the moment. He looked like a sweaty octopus trying to unhook a bra. So. There you are. Now that one for free. Describe to me the moment of watching as you're live on air, your technical producer standing and screaming next to you.
We were screaming, yeah, in the viewing deck at the NBO at the National Bank Open. So like people around us were started to like huddle around as well when it happened. It was awesome. It was very cool. We were screaming again. I'm sure there was a rights violation thing where we were screaming the results live on air. But let's see if the IOC gets to that.
Good pick. My first is I've kind of gone stories, it has to be said, rather than specific moments.
I noticed.
It gave me the opportunity to bundle more things together to cheat in this format, which is our own format. So, go figure on that one. My first is entitled Phenoms in the Pool. You could have picked any number of people for this category, but I am picking Leon Marchand and Summer McIntosh from France and Canada, respectively. I believe 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 gold medals between the two of them. Not bad going. 2 silvers each as well. Was silver and a bronze? Marchand win bronze? I think it was bronze that France had in the relay. These are astonishing athletes. Obviously, Leon Marchal was the staff of France, featured very heavily in the closing ceremony. Summer McIntosh went to the last Olympic Games, if you could believe it, at the age of 14, just turning 15. Comes into this one at 17, bosses everyone. Looks like she's been doing it all her life. This is a star. They are both stars in their own right. I had a blast watching the pair of them.
Amazing. Marchand, man, ultimate pressure. Everyone expected him to pull it off, and he did. 4 gold. Like, that's... He's set. He's set for life. I saw like Daily Mail, Simone Biles, Leon Marchand pictured at after party Olympics. So I'm like, yep, this is gonna be him now for a while. Which is cool. I guess he feels that role that was left void by Michael Phelps and Ian Thorpe, perhaps.
I was so obviously Phelps was featured in the opening ceremony, and I had to check the maths as they reminded us that he has 28 medals. Holy,
Yeah.
Jesus!
He started
Christ.
so young. Yeah, he was crazy. I think he was at Sydney, wasn't he? Is that right? I feel like that's right. As like
seriously?
a relay team member. That could
In
be
2000.
wrong. That could be wrong. It could be wrong. How old
It might be right. No, it might be right.
So he started yeah, he was actually. He did not win a medal, but he made the finals.
I do like the fact that
butterfly.
I'm saying it's unbelievable fresh off the back of me saying that Summer McIntosh just went to the Olympics at 14. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's impossible. No one could
exactly.
possibly do that. Oh yeah, wait a minute. It just happened.
It's a great pick. I like how track takes over from swimming as well, so you keep that exhilaration, but I will say the track is where it's at. And I got some heat for saying swimming is better, but maybe it is now just extreme recency bias, but I prefer track over swimming events, I think.
That's an interesting one to poll people. Pool versus track in terms of what is the better spectator sport and what people's preferences are. I think I'm probably a swimming dude. I really like watching swimming.
There's not enough variation for me. Like I love the strokes. Maybe this is coming from someone who is so swim challenged that I resent all the people in the pool with their abilities and Aquaman like efforts.
I think there's something about you have an enclosed space inside of a swimming pool arena, and the fact that the athletes can't hear anything because they're underwater.
That's true. That's good. Okay, my next one. Phil Wizard. I loved it. I loved also how, much like Leon Marchand, before the games, Phil Wizard was supposed to win gold. Like, he was the number 1 ranked person coming into this. Everyone was hyping him up as the person to win. It was almost a given that he would win a medal, at least when we were talking about a record medal count for Canada. So a lot of pressure on him. But also after that ray gun debacle, I felt like you needed some people to come in and like help save the reputation of breaking. And I don't think it's back in the next Olympics, but I thought these guys did that job, and I think Phil especially did it in an incredible way. And what I think in the semifinal, he like predicted his opponent's move and like did it while it was like, what? I was crazy. I loved it. I loved the whole story. I loved the music as well. I love the commentators. I love how mad this made certain sections of the viewing public who couldn't hide their disdain and overt racism and talk whistling. Like, it was just to Phil Wizard, man. He did the damn thing, and he saved Canada some honor after Kendrick Lamar buried us collectively through the actions of Drake. So we salute you, Phil.
Phil Wizard, local boy to me as well. McGee Secondary School. Yeah. Grew up here in Vancouver. Still lives in Vancouver as well. McGee is about 15 minutes from where I'm sitting from as well. So that's very cool to have him
There's legitimately kids breaking in, I know it's summer, so they're breaking in summer school right now because of that.
I thought the explanations that were given and the thought pieces that were written post the breaking final of why Phil Wizard is such an excellent breaker and what sets him apart in a sport, and I think in a technical sense where we see so much of, say, gym, like the floor or the routines where it's so practiced and it's so scripted almost. Like, these athletes are incredible at what they do, and it's for that moment. And then to see Phil Wizard in a sport like breaking where it's all improv, it's basically you get so much, you get more points for creativity and style, and if you do the same thing again, then you're almost deducted points from it. And to have someone who is head and shoulders above the field and constantly pushing the boundaries of it is wonderful. And it's a full marks to the idea of a sport which I think maybe looks a little odd to some people, but I think that mostly comes from the fact that we haven't learned the language to talk about it, or we haven't been exposed to it enough, I think, from a sort of global sports perspective to really understand how good this guy is.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think some of the technical moves Phil pulled off, like you probably had to know a little bit about breaking to understand how challenging they were, or like why the judges were scoring them so high. But I think it's also like a combination of the music, and I thought the CBC commentators did a really good job of shouting out the music that was going on, or why that was important, or like why it was being played, and also mentioning that they didn't practice to the beat, so they're literally like trying to process a lot of intricate stuff, man. It was cool. I loved it.
Yeah, and just to wrap on that as well, just to say that his opponent in the final was a former nurse, which is very cool as
Danny
well.
Dan, yeah.
Made the transition to full time.
Don't get me wrong. When I saw he was going up against a Frenchman in the final, I had
you knew
French figure skating fiasco thoughts in my head. I'm like, oh, the judging is going to be so crooked. But salute to them. Salute to the breakers of the higher order who get the breaker council.
Can you imagine, like, me sitting there as a complete idiot in that final? Like,
they took it from him.
There's no way. Even I sitting there, I'm like, there's no way this French guy won. He got absolutely owned, and he still managed to win. Okay, let's move to my number 2, and it has to be Imam Khalif. Like, what a story! It, I think, captured the Olympic Games. Another moment which is perhaps going to be one of the images of the games, one of the memorable feats during this Olympic Games. Nothing will beat from a moment perspective. Let's just park all the nonsense for a second and just have a young woman with, thousands upon thousands of Algerians screaming her on in this gold medal game. And it made for an incredible spectacle. It made for really one of those moments of triumphing through adversity, through the shittiest of circumstances. It was incredibly heartwarming to watch. I was so glad that she won gold, and I was so glad to see that crowd there as well, because it made that moment even sweeter.
It's amazing, the reaction in Algeria. I shared a clip in the Discord, but the amount of fireworks lit off definitely could have
too many fireworks.
Several fires. Yeah, I think too many. I was concerned, but no, amazing. I also feel like this event, Bush, was like the ultimate signifier to me of how completely fucked social media, and maybe specifically Twitter, is now, and like what it has become and what it's being used for, and like how so clearly it's being juiced and used to fuel a narrative that is frankly disgusting and abhorrent, and making the use of said websites almost impossible. Like, for all the, and I think this is mentioned on Discord as well, like for all the good of the games, like I think there was obviously a lot of bad, and I think a lot of that has to do with like how we take in these sort of stories and like what happens once they get out there. But I know you've felt about Twitter like this a long time, but holy cow.
Yeah, I think that probably speaks for a lot of people in their daily relationship with that website. One of the most fascinating parts that I had coming through this 2 weeks of nonsense is how this somehow ended up being a discussion of a trans issue, or like discussion around like this has never been a trans story at all, like ever, and it's remarkable that it sort of went in that direction. This is not that story, and if you manage to try and insert it there, then like have your head examined. This is not where the direction of travel at all. So all that shit to one side, I'm glad she won.
And like that's the reason why, and I feel like because time passed, and I maybe there has been an update on this, but like the role the Guardian editor played in this, and like the image, the photo, the selfie tweeted out with the Italian boxer afterwards, Sean Engel, like the way this was covered, and the tweets from the Guardian sports writer, I know Barney Ronay made a tongue-in-cheek joke tweet, but he was covering the event, and like that, man,
do better, media, more broadly.
Yeah.
You're there for a reason. We, despite everything that we say about the media, we do entrust you to tell things and do things correctly and not make
Yeah.
asses out of yourself on a global stage. So do better.
Okay, let's take a break there, and then we'll get back to the rest of our top five. We'll talk about some tennis that happened in Toronto, Montreal, and parting shots coming up next on Open Era.
Welcome back to Olympic era.
The IOC is so mad right now. They're like, what are you doing? You're going way over.
OE, if you will, which stands for... No, wait a minute. It's fine. My number 3 is a series of firsts, which I want to try and encapsulate a bunch of nations which either had first gold medals or medals for the first time, or indeed singles competitors getting medals. So Asha Nadeem winning for Pakistan in the javelin, first singles competitor from Pakistan to win a gold medal, which is insane to think about considering the history of that nation and obviously its population size, and also it's a really good sporting nation as well. So to see a gold medal there is a tremendous achievement. That alongside St. Lucia's Julian Alfred winning in the 100 meters in one of the most memorable moments of the games. Truly a fantastic achievement for a tiny nation, and also one in just the most glittering fashion of all, like a beaming smile in a really tightly contested and packed 100-meter final. Dominica winning, that was just a wonderful story for Tia Lafond winning gold in the triple jump. I really, really enjoyed that one. Botswana, Leslie Tobogo, we will talk about his exploits. Man. Yeah, he's him. The 200 meters, what a wonderful achievement. And then to sort of close out to see the gold medal for Cindy Nagamba for the refugee team is incredible. Like, I know she trains inside of the UK on that side of things, but one of the stats I think that was most telling inside of the opening ceremony was, forgive me for not knowing the exact numbers, but the massive explosion in the number of refugees in the world even since the 2016 Olympics. The number has, I believe, quadrupled, and people that are eligible to compete for the refugee team. We should feel ashamed about that as a world and as a globe. Sport can do a tiny, tiny fraction of a thing to cover over those things. But at the same time, yeah, maybe that's something that we might want to examine as a species in general, why that is the case. All that being said, a wonderful Olympics for all of these athletes, and first golds or first medals are things to be celebrated.
Really well said, sir. I'm going to go with Steph Curry and LeBron James for my third one. Cheering for the USA in basketball, not something I do. I was sort of cheering for them to lose to Serbia, but then I think the combination of Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Steph bringing the USA back made me remember sort of this era of basketball watching for myself and what those three gentlemen have done in that sense. And the sense that I think Steph Curry is like, he's just one of one in so many ways that I frankly can't describe right now. It was awesome. It was awesome to see that in the gold medal game. It was great to see France put up that fight, but I felt like it was the definition of an era right there with these people doing the damn thing, captivating all of us, having my mom text me about Steph Curry because she loves him. Like, it's just, I love that. And again, cheering for the USA in basketball, not something I'm going to do very often.
Well, I certainly didn't. Congratulations to them, but I was actively rooting for Nikola Jokic and Nikola Jokic, sorry, to give him his actual correct pronunciation of his name, and Serbia to take the damn thing in the semi-final, which just got away from them slightly. This was always probably going to be the most likely scenario, and you're always betting against the house when you're trying to bet against the United States basketball on both the men's and women's side of things. It made for a spectacular semi-final. It made for an incredible atmosphere. It has to be said for the gold medal game.
France did a hell of a job. I mean, considering they got nothing from Rudy Gobert, Victor was great in the final, but like overall, not his best tournament. Yabusele, people were like, let's give him a huge contract. Danny Ainge, not wrong, just early. because he's a Celtics draft pick. It was wonderful. I think I also, once again, maybe I'm social media pilled or poisoned. But the reaction if they had lost, and if the USA women basketball team had lost as well without taking Caitlin Clark, like holy hell! Like as much as I want the USA to lose these games, just for like yes, the biggest idiots in the world would have loved that. So I'm glad that the women as well dodged a bullet because that was a great game as well.
A lot to be said for the fact that both gold medal games were the United States versus France in basketball. If you want to know where the center of the universe is in the basketball world, it's in those two nations. And long may it continue. I think we're going to see...
France has made big ass leaps in the basketball space. Holy cow.
I really would love to see the expansion and continuation of the growth of Eurobasket more broadly, because I think it is a different style in Europe. It is more team focused, less isolation heavy, all those kind of things, which I know are cliches at this point. They are tropes to beat both respective leagues in, but I think it does make for spectacular atmospheres when you're watching basketball in Europe. I've been to a few games in my visits to Spain, seeing both Real Madrid and Barcelona play, and it is just very different than the NBA. So I'd love to see it continue to get bigger, to expand, to perhaps challenge the NBA in terms of bringing some of those big stars over and having them almost at parity level. It would be nice because I think I would be fully supportive of that.
How close are we to an NBA team playing in the Euro?
Yeah, I'm not down for that. That's something that I'm not particularly interested in.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking. What do you got for number 4?
I just wanted to highlight the Olympics own website put together a list of 10 stars which are calling their time on their careers after Paris. And I just want to list out their names because it is one of those things that growing up and watching so much sport, you tend to get used to certain names across the disciplines. And then when they're not there anymore, you see the end of eras, it's something that's worth highlighting. So I'm just going to go quickly through the names and then touch on a couple of them. Ma Long, of course, the all-time GOAT in table tennis, like one of the greatest players ever. You could argue make one of the greatest athletes ever. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Matt Whitlock, the pommel horse gold medalist, the British gymnast who is so beloved in the UK. Marta, of course, many people referring to Marta as the greatest of all time of women's footballers. Eliud Kipchoge, I mean, goodness me, the idea of having Kipchoge no longer as a marathon runner at the Olympics seems remarkable to me. I don't want to live in a world where that's not the case. Lydia Ko, winning obviously gold here in Paris at 27, claims that she's going to retire at 30. The last time we're going to see that one of the greatest female golfers of all time. Great to see the New Zealander win gold there. Andy Murray, we touched on him last week. He's gone. It's a sad state of affairs, but that is the case. Kelly Harrington winning back-to-back gold medals and bowing out for Ireland. A wonderful story. If you've not seen that gold medal fight, it's really worth going to see. Mikael Hansen, you could arguably make the case that he's the greatest handball player of all time. Emma McEwen bowing out in the swimming as well. 6 golds, 3 silvers, 5 bronzes across her career. Not a bad record. Dev, that is a glittering who's who of decorated athletes and that we will never see at Olympic Games again, which is kind of sad.
Mijan Lopez as well, the Cuban wrestler who went 5 for 5.
Yep.
Leaving your shoes on the mat, the coolest thing you could do. Love it. Wow, that was a great. I mean, I like how Brazil, Marta was suspended during the tournament, and Brazil managed to make the final anyways for Marta in some ways. I felt that was awesome as well. Great list, awesome legends. I have 2 more. I'm going to go with that Femke Bowl 4x400 mixed relay. I love the mixed stuff in general and the swimming as well. We talked about it last week, Bush, but I also want to shout out Sydney McLaughlin, who is insane. And I feel like her not running in that mixed relay kind of now taints it slightly, more than slightly probably, because they would have won by a mile. To see someone that much better than everyone else is sort of jarring, but to see them also boost their teammates so much like she did in the 4x400, like talk about delivering when you're expected to. It was really impressive.
That moment will live in infamy, won't it? Also, I saw an interview with Femke Ball. She doesn't sound like Mickey Mouse regularly, so I don't know what was
Something
going
must
on.
have been up. The helium levels must have been supercharged at that Diamond League event.
She is adorable when she's interviewed regularly. She just seems like a really nice person, so I don't know quite how this ended up being the case.
Does she remind you of the actress Lauren Lapkus at all? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know who that is.
Listeners, let me know. Let me know if you see that. Okay. What do you got for your last one?
Okay, my final one, I was debating to go fully in on the table tennis discussions of trying to give a rundown of the exploits of, on the men's side of things, of the world's quest to overturn and beat the Chinese, which didn't happen in the team event, didn't happen in the singles, with Fan Zhendong winning Little Fatty, as he's known in that side of the world.
Incredible.
Truly, that's his nickname. Truls Mudregard of Sweden, really, really talented player. Pierre Lebrun of France as well. The exploits of him, a prodigy in his own right. And I'm always down to see a table tennis player wear glasses. Sadly, it was not to be, though. It was not to be. But I didn't go in the table tennis direction. I went in the other direction, which was that I just wanted to shout out the actual city of Paris itself, the opening and closing ceremonies. This was absolutely spectacular. They nailed everything about this. And I'm aware I'm seeing what they want me to see and the behind the scenes stuff, and fully accepting that there is a lot of dodgy shit that happened as well. The relocation of underhoused people or homeless people is a disgrace. It never gets talked about enough inside of the Olympic Games, and a lot of these host cities doing some shady work to oust poor people inside of their cities. That should be mentioned here. But the opening and closing ceremonies were remarkable. The venues themselves that they chose really embodied, I think, these ideas of moments at Olympic Games, showcasing the best parts of these cities and showing them off, and then having an accessible space for people to move around a city and freely explore it. All of that against the backdrop that it was all completely accessible, walking, biking, and public transit. This was absolutely fucking phenomenal. They did a great job. I'm really sad I wouldn't be there. And in some ways, it kind of sucks that it's going to be in LA, because we're kind of losing a little bit of that central location idea. I think they're going to do a good job regardless, but it's not the same.
How much free swag, though. No, really well said. They nailed it. Like the director, I watched some interviews with him and like some making of documentaries, but like the amount of pressure on that team to deliver was immense, and they completely knocked it out of the park. Even that in the closing ceremonies, that I don't know what to call it, that dance of constructing the rings and lifting them. I was getting emotional, man. Watching that, I was like, "What's happening to me? I'm melting down."
The quantity of people as well that brought up the choice and use of Celine Dion at the end there of the opening ceremony, and how much that kind of penetrated popular culture in general. Really, I think an emotional moment for a lot of people who have followed Celine Dion's career. We are not a pop culture podcast. At the same time, I think it was emotional for a lot of people to see that, and a perfect way to end the opening ceremony.
Do you think these games were better than 2012?
I think they were. Yeah, I think they were. I think this is the best Olympics ever. I think that's probably the case. It has to be said, I would have loved to have seen what Tokyo would have been like in 2020 with crowds, just given how historically Japan has sort of attacked these Olympics to really try and improve a lot of things and make moments out of them. It's sad that it wasn't the case, but I thought this was absolutely spectacular.
Great pick, Simon. My last one is Sifan Hassan, the Dutch middle distance, long distance marathon runner. I don't know how else to, like, this was one of the craziest things I've seen. She got bronze in the 5,000, bronze in the 10,000, and then she ran the marathon on the final day and won gold. The race itself was incredible, and like the final sprint was awesome. There was some like jockeying as well. That's what the Olympics are about to me, Bush. Like, it's just these unbelievable individuals doing things that you don't think are possible. And the inspiration she is, the story, the background. I think she was also training to be a nurse. growing up, and then just got into long distance running and was like, I'm kind of good at this. And here we are. I loved her talking about the race as well, being like, all the whole time I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why did I sign up for this? And then she kind of reached that state of zen around the 20-kilometer mark and thought she could win. And then the fact that they were actually honored at the closing ceremonies, which I think normally the men get honored, or had been honored at the closing ceremonies, but to see that in her headscarf as well,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty poignant. So a legend, the best to ever do it. What a feat.
It doesn't get spoken of enough, and I don't think the cameras quite capture how quickly these athletes are running, despite it being the distance that they are going. It is insane. These people are, they must be, their pain tolerance and their threshold and the ability to do this training is off the charts. I would never do it. It's crazy.
The crowds for the marathons, Bush, incredible. Like the people running alongside to either support or test themselves, I found hilarious and great. But the cycling events as well, like 5 deep, the whole race, it was just, to your point, it was the perfect setting, and like they capitalized on their historic monuments so well. Like it was just, what a feat to pull it off. And the volunteers, man, like I think the Olympics kind of gets away with this in the sense of like, they have a lot of unpaid volunteers, but obviously there's perks to that as well, and they get to access some of these venues and see these events. But without these people, how the heck do you pull this off? I thought that Tony de Castonguay, the Paris Olympic chief, he did really well. I thought his speech, like kind of celebrating the games before Thomas Bach spoke, and like just all these people pulling this off to put this together. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the less we say about Thomas Bach, the
fencing
better.
champion Thomas Bach. Do they make the PA person say fencing champion 1970 every time this guy's announced?
I can't tell. Is Seb Coe taking over better or worse than Thomas Bach?
Not with that trouser shoe combo. From what I saw, that was the Allbirds guy. God.
Will echo your words on Sifan Hassan and just say it was also very cool to see the marathon track left open for residents of Paris to run the race on those courses as well. I thought that was really, really cool. I thought, and it speaks to the idea of trying to make it accessible and open to the people of Paris. The labor, quote unquote, the volunteer side of it, I think, is so fascinating because on the one hand, it falls into this category where, pay people, obviously. And at the second time, it's what is community spirit and what is mutual aid if not trying to come and try, to represent and pull together your city, to have a sense of pride around it, to support things and put it on, while at the same time acknowledging that this is a multi-billion-dollar non-profit, in quotation marks. I constantly am wrestling with that myself, it has to be said, in terms of a lot of organizations that I'm part of that I do volunteer my time at, where I'm like, well, the organization won't exist if I'm not here, or people like me aren't here, but at the same time, I probably should be being paid for this, but what are you supposed to do with that?
There was something about Thomas Bach, like, smiling after that, or it was like, they got us again. All right. Is that it, Bush, for Olympics?
I think it is for the top 5. May I just have the moment for 2 final points? And then I promise I'll shut up everyone. Maybe. I think we can squeeze one more segment out of this next week, can't we?
Probably,
yes. Yeah. Of course we can. Firstly, the Paris 2024 Olympics, the first time in history of gender parity ever, which I think is a feat which is... on the one hand, incredibly sad, and at the one time is also something that is really, really worth celebrating. I think it is a fantastic achievement that we have finally got here. Awesome just to note that. And then finally, on the Olympic montages, Dev, I have an unabashed and unashamed closing montage and opening montage fan. I watch them with a decent amount of regularity, it has to be said, across the years. The BBC one was spectacular this year. Really, really, really good. I encourage anyone to go and check it out. I think it is a remarkable, just emotional summarization of the 2 weeks there. It's a perfect bookend from this idea of family, which they introduce in the opening package of the Olympics itself, and then bookend it with the closing montage as well. It's really, really special. They always deliver, but this one was really good. The CBC one was a bit limp, I thought. It was a bit thin in comparison, but maybe it was just trying to do something a bit different here. It was much more showcasing of cool moments against music, as opposed to really, it didn't really have a theme, I didn't think. It was just kind of going through the motions a little bit. Whilst at the same time recognize it's incredibly technically well produced and put together. It just didn't really have a soul, which was weird considering this is the Olympic Games. Every single moment has a story behind it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they were going for two different things. I enjoyed them both, but I think, yeah, like the BBC one, and maybe they felt like they had carte blanche to tell that story more in a windy way a bit, I think, whereas the CBC went for like that brute, like here's the best shit we saw, which, I mean,
there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah. I really like the BBC one as well, though. That was really well done. Got me again. Felt super emotional watching it, so they know what they're doing over there, sir.
There's that moment where I can't remember who, it's the British gymnast, right? Her mum and dad are talking, and the way that she says, with the parents of a gold medalist and a 3-time Olympian, it's like, wow, it's just two normal parents who are like, holy shit, like what have we done? How has this happened? It's such a relatable moment. It's such a heartfelt moment.
Love it. All right. There is Olympics talk for this episode. I'm sure in the coming weeks there'll be plenty more. Tennis was played in Canada. They're on to Cincinnati now, but we had two winners. Jess Pegula going back to back in Canada with her grandparents, her Canadian grandparents in attendance. A lot of friends and family in attendance as well. Quick drive over from Buffalo. Pegula surviving an American loaded field. Bush, a really good week for Amanda Anisimova, who was pegged for stardom a few years ago, has dealt with injuries and some off-the-court tragedy as well. But to see her back here excelling was good to see. Not a great week for the Canadians. The singles and the doubles, Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe lost in the final, unfortunately. But the Fernandez sisters made it to the semis. And Alexei Popyrin, Bush, if I had told you Alexei Popyrin was going to win this tournament before we started, could have probably said maybe, but also what? And I think that's just kind of how these two tournaments really were in the end. With the Olympics, felt a bit strange. And I think that was just due to, I think, some fatigue on the part of the people who made the trip for the most part. We saw some people battle through that and excel, but it did feel like this was like that once every 4 years kind of thing that happens to the Canadian events, where it didn't feel like a totally normal National Bank Open.
Yeah, entirely agreed. It was a strange week and a half. It was one of the least, I don't know if prestigious, it's maybe a bit harsh, but it kind of felt that way. Events at this level that I've seen in a while, and that's just in the nature of the calendar of where it's butting up against. It's got to be said, like, if this event is the equivalent of the tweeting through it idea, they're just like they're just going with it. Okay, we've committed to doing this regardless of the fact that it's against the Olympics, it's happening, but we have to do it anyway. With the greatest respect to the two winners, because I think it's actually a fantastic week for the pair of them, and much needed, I think, for Jess Pegula. Just a strange event overall. Yeah. And honestly, like, we're a tennis podcast on first and foremost, but my attention was elsewhere, it has to be said.
Mine wasn't, and I was there.
You were working there.
I was there when I was working there. But I get what you're saying, and I think like Coco Gauff was obviously not herself. Sabalenka, not 100% either. We'll see. I do think there's some. The American resurgence is obviously real. There's going to be a ton of Americans making deep runs on the women's side, which is not necessarily new, but I do like how you get to see some career highs kind of come out of nowhere after weeks like this. Like, I think of someone like Taylor Townsend, who was a lucky loser. It capitalized on that, did really well, and is now up to 53 in singles, which I think is a a new career high. I think Harriet Dart, something similar where she's up to a career high now. Popperin, I mean, these points are huge, massive. And not only is that, he Masters 1000 beside his name. Like that's pretty epic. So I mean, I'm very fascinated to see who can ride this, who can capitalize on this weird week, which it definitely was, and let's see what happens from there. But Cincinnati, I think, will be the same. Bush, really, overall, like it's going to be. Let's see what happens in the lead up to the U.S. Open if the vibes improve.
I feel like one of the stories which you can kind of maybe circle and just keep an eye on is Jannik Sinner run out of steam a little bit. Of considering how good the start of the year was. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't feel like he has the same pop. I think we've been told that he's not injured.
That carrot is juiced. So
exactly, yeah, it's been turned into a smoothie or whatever people do with carrots. He just doesn't look the same. And I think it's going to be hard when he tried his best to get to the top of the sport, get up everything to win that first Grand Slam at the start of the season, but this doesn't seem like the same energy and same pop anymore.
Agreed. Okay, 2 challenges remaining, sir. Do you want me to go first?
Sure, go for it.
I think I've done this before, actually, on this show, but spare me your scorn. I'm shouting out the library. The Toronto Public Library was cyber hacked last year, and it was basically not usable for a while because of a ransomware attack. But they battled through it and they got back online, and I've just started to take out books again, and also like audiobooks, which I had been doing through the outage because that was still up. But physical books, getting them from the library, it's right down the street. Just finished one today. In my effort to use social media less, I'm trying to read more again, and it feels good. So I'm going to keep trying to do that.
Can you imagine in 2024 if someone would propose the idea of a library system?
God, how would they make it bad, right?
And
How
then
quickly could they make it bad?
as I say that, and you imagine it in your brain, think how lucky we are that a lot of places still do have library systems. Take advantage of them.
Yep.
Support them any way you can do. They are really, really a special thing. And if you're looking for a potential version of the world, think about an expanded library. Think about how much that looks like. What else could be put into your library system? Many things.
Can't see the glint in Simon's eye as he delivers that. What do you got, sir? What do you got?
And my 2 challenges remaining is the Vancouver Public Library as well. This is the VPL. We're on the same wavelength. My 2 challenges remaining. What is the correct grammar on that? My challenge. Yeah. What am I talking about? My challenge is
get it together, man.
Jesus Christ. Again, it's still really warm here in the city. I'm sweating my balls off sitting here.
He's wearing a sweater, folks. He's wearing a sweater.
It's the thing, when it went from 32 degrees in Vancouver to 21, I had to start putting all of my long layers on again. I had to put a base layer on to go outside. My challenge is Scavenger's Reign, the anime/cartoon, which got 1 season on Netflix. It is a spectacular demonstration of creativity in the way that the world building is put together in terms of its animation and its style. Very, very creative across the board and really worth a watch. I think it's only 10, maybe 12 episodes long. It didn't get a 2nd season. It should have had many more seasons, but if you have Netflix, or alternatively, if you would like to use other means to get it, I think that's a great idea. It's a good show.
Wonderful. We'll leave it there. A reminder, we're on patreon.com/openerapod. Join us there. Get the show ad free. Get it early. Plus, join us on the Discord where we're chatting tennis, Olympics still probably, and other stuff all the time. Please join us there. We love chatting with our friends on the Discord. For producer Dylan on the 1s and 2s, and for Simon, thank you so much for listening to Open Era. We'll talk to you next time.
This is going long, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm fine with it, man. We
I know
committed to
you
the
are.
bit.
I know you are. But my sense of time is all messed. Okay.